I've always had a bit of a thing about possession. I was a very morbid child and I was always obsessed with death and funeral arrangements and everything like that. Alan Bennett says we all have only a few beans in our tin to rattle, and I think he's dead right. And it's something I keep coming back to. There's an element of sort of disembodied ghostliness and ghost stories. I think that's what I like the most. So it all felt right for this. I knew pretty much immediately that there was going to be a sort of series Bible, and in the episode sort of guide, as it were, each story had a small paragraph, and one of them was about a Victorian story in Cardiff with Charles Dickens and seances, essentially. And I thought, well, I hope that's the one he wants me to do. And hey, poncho it was. The best thing you can have as a writer is just suddenly a collision of ideas. And I got very excited immediately. I thought, I know what I can do with this. Fake seances, all the paraphernalia that come with that. Originally, it was set in a what they used to call a spiritualist hotel, which was there would literally be a different medium on every floor, and you could just make your appointment and go and see them. And I thought it was a rather interesting idea to have all these fakes, and there was this big matronly medium called Mrs. Plumshoot, and she was a fake. And then on one floor there was a man called Sneed, who was the real thing, although he didn't know it, but he'd been in contact with what he thought was the dead, and in fact was this alien race, the Gelf. Part of the brief was the idea of gas monsters, and the big leap I made was the idea that they needed a vehicle to house themselves. They were disembodied, and then suddenly there was the possibility of a moral dilemma, because absolutely the world is full of useless corpses, and they're saying, can we have them please, doctor? Doctor says yes, the companion says no, and I thought that was very interesting.
You can't let them run around inside of dead people.
Why not? It's like recycling.
Seriously though, you can't.
Seriously though, I can.
It's just wrong.
And then of course that they appear to be benevolent and childlike, and in fact are quite the opposite.
Oh, there are lots of them, eh?
We descend.
There's a John Pertwee story I wrote for BBC Books called Last of the Gadarene, which is about a race evacuating from a dying planet and kind of making themselves into formless things and then needing a shell on the other side. I've never been on the telly, so I thought, why not? But I think it was The Living Dead that suddenly became the thing. It was like, my God, can we do zombies on Saturday nights on BBC One? And Russell and I got very excited about the notion of doing Victorian zombie. I've got a good ear for dialogue and language, I think, and to me it was all about kind of absorbing the influences of the period and everything I liked about the way that people spoke, and then feeling that you could make it authentic sounding, and that's very different to being actually authentic and true to the absolute period, because that's a different way of speaking. It's making a kind of TV Victoriana. With Gwyneth, I felt it was very much about trying to invest her with something real, but at the same time not just doing the cliche.
What are you doing?
Oh, it's a tragedy, miss. Don't worry yourself, me and the master will deal with it.
What I really like about the character is actually she's not yearning to be a modern girl. She doesn't know what the concept is, she's paid £8 a year and would be happy with £6.
You don't understand what's going on.
You would say that, miss, because that's very clear inside your head that you think I'm stupid.
And she meets Rose, who kind of thinks that she will emancipate her, and in the end actually she's patronising her.
Things might be very different where you're from, but here and now I know my own mind, and the angels need me.
It's too easy a trap to fall into, that everywhere the Doctor and Rose go there is someone who could easily become a companion. Do you know what I mean? They've got modern attitudes. In fact, not. They're very much shaped by their circumstances.
The lure of the limelight, as potent as a pipe word.
Dickens was a challenge. It's something I initially resisted. I mean, it was in the brief.
Oh, the motley.
It was all part of the sort of headline-grabbing nature of the first season. It's like, you know, it's very simple. It's even on the Radio Times. Doctor Who meets Dickens. It's all you need. It's a pitch, you know. But I did resist it because I think largely Doctor Who has dealt with historical figures best in the third person, you know. Boney, I said, you know, all those references. And very rarely have they encountered the real thing. In the end, I think crucial to the success of it is Simon Callow doing such a wonderful job with it and not doing a fruity performance, except when it's needed. He very much played to the script of a weary and rather disappointed man at the end of his life who, in a Scrooge-like manoeuvre, suddenly regains his joie de vivre. And in a funny kind of way, I think in 45 minutes, having Simon do it is a bit like we got Dickens.
Sorry, sir, we closed.
Nonsense. It's won't let an undertaker keep office hours. The dead don't die on schedule. I demand to see your master.
He's not in, sir.
If someone else had played it, maybe you'd immediately have to get used to him. How's he going to play Dickens? You know what I mean? But Simon has got such an association with it already. It was actually like we got it. We got the real thing.
Morbid fancy.
Oh, Charles, you were there.
I saw nothing but an illusion.
I've read quite a bit of Dickens, but my favourite has always been A Christmas Carol.
Now, it is a fact that there was nothing particular at all about the knocker on the door.
My favourite part, which is often not done, is when Scrooge notices the two children clutching to the skirts of the Ghost of Christmas Present, and these ghastly, wretched children. And the ghost says, the boy is ignorance, the girl is want. Beware them both, but most of all, beware this boy. It's just electrifying, isn't it? It's just so great. And so I was very keen to sort of imbue the whole thing, make it a Christmas episode, and then imbue the whole thing with A Christmas Carol.
Scrooge, having his key in the lock of the door, saw in the knocker, without its undergoing any intermediate process of change, not a knocker, but Marley's face.
Dickens is doing a reading, but becomes Scrooge and himself, and there's possibilities for all kinds of references.
I can't take part in this.
Humbug. Come on, open mind.
This is precisely the sort of cheap mummery I strive to unmask. Seances? Nothing but luminous tambourines and a squeeze box concealed between the knees. This girl knows nothing.
Now, come on, we might need you.
Beautifully directed by Eros, and I don't want to gush, but I will. The cast were fantastic. I couldn't really have been happier. There's always tiny things that you would do differently if you were actually able to be there all the time, but they're so small. You know, I was thrilled with it, and if I fell under a mechanoid tomorrow and that was my only contribution to Doctor Who, I'd be very happy.